Hello, it's Jimmy. Today I want to talk about keeping it simple, and specifically about the cash or checking banking side of personal finance. Too often I think people equate complexity with sophistication, and most often that's really not the case. It's much better to keep things very simple. The example in my life is I used to have a bunch of different checking and savings accounts, even across different banks. And I spent a lot of time trying to chase pennies, essentially. I would try to find the best interest rates and new accounts to move things to. And it really got to be quite cumbersome. I didn't realize it at the time, but after I pared everything down, I realized I had been wasting a lot of time and effort for not much gain. At the end of every month, I would go into my spreadsheet and reconcile between the bank accounts and my accounting. And having to do that across several different websites with many different accounts, it was quite cumbersome. And I really was only earning pennies in interest. I was so short-sighted on what the goal should have been that I let things get way more complicated than they needed to be. At the peak of it, I think my wife and I each had at least one or two checking accounts at two different banks and several savings accounts. And at that time, we were still using debt, and we had, I think, credit cards attached to some of the accounts at least one of the national banks. Cards we never used. In fact, I had one misused by a fraudster in Mexico, and that was interesting to get that figured out. It was a card I never used. I had it as like an overdraft protection on one account, and some bozo tried to use the number down in Mexico City, and dealing with the bank was more of a pain in the butt than than it was worth, we'll say. All of these accounts really, I didn't have much money in any one account, so I was always moving money back and forth, and it was at a time where it wasn't as easy to do as it is today, where you just get an app on the phone and punch a couple buttons up and money moves. I think I had to do some of it through the telephone transfer, where you had to dial up, well, not dial, touch tone. You needed a touch tone phone to call into your bank number, punch in your codes and all that, and then press 3 to transfer, never talking to a human. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt. The internet made it slightly easier, but no less complex. It wasn't worth it. Well, one day, dealing with the big bank, I'd had enough. I was a member at a rather large national bank that got into some hot water a couple of years ago for messing around with their customers' accounts and opening accounts that they didn't agree to. And you can go figure that one out on your own. But I said, this is enough. I every time I go in there to, get a little cash or make a transaction, they're always trying to sell me products that I don't want and don't need. And I think every year or so they have some little flag come up and say, oh, you probably should do a review of your accounts, make sure we're providing the best service for you. Why don't you go meet with a personal banker while they waste your time and tell you what a great customer you are. Now, my wife and I, we've never had a his money, her money type of attitude. It's all everybody earns, goes into one pot, and then everything gets paid. Now, that one pot mentality was great, but we really didn't have a physical one pot situation where all the money was. So it got a little confusing sometimes and strange. I don't think we ever missed paying anything, but a lot of times there was some scrambling to get money transferred here and there. Nowadays, we have one bank that we deal with, a nice local bank. They're very fine people. I enjoy going in there. Sometimes get a little hot chocolate and a cookie if they have a special thing going on. But they never try to sell me any garbage. And they're real people. They actually call me if they see something weird. And they're just pleasant to deal with. And we've made it very simple. We have one checking that's a personal checking account, one that's for business or travel, and one regular savings account and one money market account. So 4 accounts total. 2 are really savings and 2 are checking. I sometimes travel by myself and my wife stays home, or vice versa. We're not always together. So it's nice to have kind of that separation between like the everyday stuff and then the travel stuff. That's about as complex as I care to have my banking at the moment. And because we don't have any debt payments going out, it's much, much simpler. And no credit cards, so we don't even have to wait around for statements to show up and try to reconcile all that BS. And because we now can keep more money in one place, we actually earn a little bit better interest on it, although, things being as they are, interest rates in the bank aren't great, but oh well, a little bit can sit in there. It's easy enough to get to, and we do not have the headaches of multiple banks and multiple accounts causing chaos. Well, that's all I've got to say on keeping banking simple. It really doesn't need to be complex to be effective. And as I have gained wisdom and wealth over the years, I realize I don't need to have that kind of stress in my life dealing with multiple banks and accounts all over the place. So as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you're having a great day.